And welcome back to another installment of Trust Matters, Real Estate and Estate Planning Solutions, with Sean Robertson and his team at Gateville Law Firm in Yorkville and online at gatevillelawfirm.com. We've got Sean in studio with us again for today's show. Welcome in, Sean, as we're talking about a topic that involves why leaving everything outright to a surviving spouse can be a little riskier than families think. So what are we talking about here?
Yeah, so really what we're talking about, a lot of times what I hear people say is, I've got a bank account, I've got a life insurance policy, and I know who the beneficiary is going to be, which is great. So really the key issue isn't who gets what. It's what happens once the money gets to them, where most of the time with most seniors, the surviving spouse is going to inherit everything. And that's where the issue comes, where maybe they get remarried. They've got to worry about elder abuse, financial exploitation, dementia, strokes, Parkinson's disease, memory loss, assisted living. So basically what we help people do, Mike, is we help them not only decide who they want their money to go to, but make sure that the money stays within their family to fight against these long-term care issues, financial exploitation, and many other issues that occur that where people want to make sure that their loved ones get their money and their money stays within their bloodline.
Yeah, so you've kind of touched on some of the things that can happen, and then long-term care can really make it worse.
Yeah, and not only that, but what happens if the surviving spouse remarries? Nobody ever thinks about that, and then they get a divorce, and the money goes to that person. It goes to their family. What if, because a lot of times with seniors, they're moving into homes with each other. Maybe it was a marital home. They've got kids from another relationship. So these are kind of difficult things. What if the beneficiaries are changed? A lot of times there's a lot of mistrust between the stepkids and the step-parents. What if a child disagrees how the money's being spent? And then a lot of times when siblings are taking care of their parents, there's a lot of animosity that occurs because one person's like, I'm taking care of mom and dad, and the other brother or sister's not doing anything, and that brother or sister's writing a check. And, what happens is all this stuff might get built up. And a lot of times these are where estate plans go wrong and people have a lot of family conflict.
Yeah, and people might hear some of the things you've mentioned, and they'll say, well, I trust my spouse completely. Nothing could go wrong here.
Yeah, and a lot of times this is the dangerous thing too. A lot of times different spouses, like I know my spouse deals with the money mostly, and different spouses have different roles. And the problem is when one person dies, that role changes, and a lot of times that person has to learn how to do something where they've probably haven't done it in 20, 30, 40, maybe some people 50 years. So this is where the estate plan has to be realistic and take these things into account.
So how does a better plan work for these people?
Yeah, so basically, what we do, Mike, is there's a thing called a protective trust structure where instead of leaving everything outright, so meaning whether it's through the trust, giving somebody the money outright, or through beneficiary withdrawal, we basically have a trust set up for the surviving spouse's benefit or the adult kids. And essentially, it gives them structure to protect against remarriage problems, outside pressure problems, creditor exposure, beneficiary changes, poor decisions during incapacity, because a lot of people are taken advantage of, and conflict between children. So there's different types of trust and roles of trust that can protect the surviving spouse and the wealth to make sure it stays within your family.
We got about a minute left. Medicare, I know that kind of fits into the discussion here too. And do you have any kind of examples that would tie in also?
Yes, like for example, a lot of people think, I've had people that have passed away with cancer that had it for 8 years and that were young. And it's one of those topics that it's difficult, but it's one that can really bleed you if you're not careful. And it can affect your minor kids. It can affect your kids. So that's one thing we do is we help them plan from against long-term care and make sure the money gets to the kids. Ultimately, you don't want the spouse that maybe you like or maybe you don't like to get your money. So that's kind of what we do.
All right. Any final advice for how folks should contact Gateville and what you guys can do to help make things nice and easy for them?
Yeah, just give us a call. We're happy to have a conversation with you. We're not going to bite you or anything. We're just going to try to educate you and listen to your story and find out about your family and what your concerns are. That's basically what we do.
Gateville Law Firm is the place to go. You can call 630-780-1034. Go online at gatevillelawfirm.com. And if you want to stop in and say hi, they are close by in Yorkville. Sean Robertson and his team will be happy to meet with you and go over any questions you have about real estate and estate planning solutions. It's Trust Matters. Join us same time next week.